Before we start today's show, I just want to remind you that you can pre-order the 2017 Ultimate Draft Kit.
Ultimate Draft Kit.
It's pretty cool. There's premium position rankings. We got our top 200s, 100-plus player profile videos. We've got sleepers, breakouts, busts, and values. We got scoring projections. And this year we got Matt Harmon's reception perception delivered on a silver platter exclusively to the 2017 Ultimate Draft Kit. So go to ultimatedraftkit.com. Get in on the early bird pricing. Check it out. We know you'll love it. Everybody who got it last year loves it, so that means I'm right. Check it out.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from the FantasyJocks.com studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Happy Tuesday. Welcome in. We're back again.
What a day to be alive.
It's a strange day in Arizona when it rains like it's raining today. Jason, there's one question I have for you, and it's which pair of flip-flops did you wear today?
Oh, my only pair of flip-flops. They might as well be tattoos because that's all I wear.
Oh, man, flip-flop tattoos? That would be ridiculous.
You have no idea how ridiculous this man, Jason Moore, is. Yesterday, it was raining as well. It's gloomy. It's a little bit cold for Arizona.
It's in the 50s.
The normal Arizona weather. And we're inside. He's wearing a T-shirt, shorts, and flip-flops. It's like, why is it so cold?
Yeah, that's true. You were complaining about the cold.
Like, hey,
yes,
dummy,
because we were inside. We have a heater. We should not have to be cold inside just because it's cold outside.
But
we have the technology.
But you still dress appropriately.
No, I don't. And I think we've established that. I do not dress appropriately for anything.
Welcome to the show. We have a great Fantasy Footballers podcast episode for you today. Andy, Mike, and Jason bringing you the coaching changes that have transpired over the last couple of months and the fantasy football implications of those changes, primarily looking to the offensive side of the ball, obviously. We are looking at head coaches, offensive coordinators, the players that those changes impact, the history of these coaches, and how it might change the offensive philosophy of these teams that might give you an advantage as a fantasy football owner in terms of which players to draft, which players have upside, which are possibly have downside based on the coaching that is coming into form.
Yeah, this is one of our more important off-season shows every single year, and you know, we get a lot of feedback of how important this is. And sometimes, you know, I was telling my friend, he's like, "Oh, what's your next show?" I say, "We're finally doing the coaching changes episode," and he goes, "Oh, really? Like it was like not interesting?" And I'm going,
boring.
Dude, we have been waiting. We've been pushing this back for weeks at a time because we wanted to wait until kind of the Super Bowl lull was over and people are getting back into it. You know what happens today? What starts today?
Oh, it's the Combine?
The Combine is here, gentlemen. It starts being aired tomorrow, but it is here.
I thought you were going to say the new season of Overwatch begins.
Oh, man, this is a great day to be alive. Because all of that is true and the coaching changes.
So the Combine, getting started. Look, we're almost in March.
Almost. Well,
you know it's in April.
Is it draft in April?
Yeah.
Okay, for some reason I had it locked in May in my head,
both.
but it's
I think it's end of April.
Traverses the line?
I believe so.
Traverses? Well
it's
done.
like the Four Corners. You know, we can be in 4 states at the same time.
By the way, after today's show on YouTube, we have a show after the show, and we will be debating who would survive the longest in the wild.
Oh,
that's going to be the topic. So you bring up words like traverse, and we speak of Jason's well-equipped his flip-flops and his shorts.
I got some ammo for that. You guys are going down.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll talk about that after. Quick question of the day, guys. Who's riskier in your mind, Melvin Gordon or Jordan Howard? Who is the riskier pick in your mind? I don't know if Jason's exclamation there is
my exclamation
is that it's hard or easy.
Is that it's a great question.
Okay.
It's a question that literally this morning I was
looking. You hear that, Brooks? It's a great, quick question.
I was looking this morning at those two players. Someone had written in saying, you know, would you rather have Melvin Gordon for an 8th or Jordan Howard for a 10th? And I really had to pause at that because when you're in the 8th or the 10th round value, you're pretty much the same. I don't care so much about whether I'm giving up my 8th or 10th. I want the better player. And so I was like, clearly I'm going to go with ... It's like, man, who is it? You got Melvin Gordon, who's had a great year and a bad year. Jordan Howard, who's only had a great year. I think at the end of the day, I believe more in the offense in San Diego. I like some of the coaching changes for Melvin Gordon. We'll get into that later. So I would lean Melvin Gordon, but it's close.
Yeah, I think I lean Melvin Gordon too. And when you talk about risk, you factor in.
As in who's riskier?
No, I'm sorry. As in who I would go with, I would choose. The riskier player to me is Jordan Howard, not because of talent, not because of ability, but because of red zone opportunities if the right quarterback isn't in place. At least in Los Angeles, you know that Phillip Rivers is the quarterback. And so when you talk about risk, you factor in the pieces around the player. And so for that reason, I would say that Jordan Howard is riskier, but I think it's a great debate.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, but on the flip side, you have how unbelievably productive Jordan Howard was, and you had Melvin Gordon, who, if I know he was killing it for fantasy, but you have to remember the guy was scoring like multiple times every week, and that's what was really boosting his value at times. There would be games where he would, his overall efficiency and production would be down, but he just kept scoring at this insane pace, which was saving you. Meanwhile, Jordan Howard is just gashing people, bloodying faces when he should not be, with a bad offense.
I think that illustrates the point completely.
Yeah,
Melvin Gordon scores a bunch.
Yeah.
Jordan Howard only had 6 touchdowns.
But will Melvin Gordon continue to do that? I mean, the running back core in San Diego just was eviscerated by injury.
Well, you would lean on the side that efficiency is the better route to follow for risk versus scoring dependency.
I agree.
True.
Unless you're on the Patriots.
Yeah, of course. But to me, I mean, Jordan Howard is probably still the riskier guy, despite that the argument where all signs to me point that Gordon would be the riskier guy. But
yeah.
But I lean it's Jordan Howard right now.
So I guess that's not the same. So saying who's riskier isn't the same question of who you draft.
Who I would draft.
So who would you draft of those two guys? I'll take Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, it's going to be Gordon right now.
Jason?
Unanimous.
All right. Hey, if you want to become a part of our fantasy football community, check it out at jointhefoot.com. This show is all about community. This show has always been about doing something more than just giving you advice on a fantasy football player, right? It's about making your league better. It's about making your strategies better so that you can develop them on your own. We're not telling you what to do. We're telling you how to play or how we play so that you can develop your own strategies. That's what our community is all about. That's what this show is all about. If you want to get connected with us, there's an easy way to do that. You can go to Twitter at the FF Ballers. Hang out with us on Twitter. We also are on we're on Snapchat. We're on Instagram.
We're everywhere.
We're on
Twitch.
We're on Facebook. We're on Twitch. Because this show is all about community. That's why it's a year-round show.
And having fun and being united.
Yeah, I can't be friends with people for half a year. I need the whole year.
No.
And just the last point here, because I finally got my stats open to talk about the efficiency. Jordan Howard had 2 less carries than Melvin Gordon, yet 300 more rushing yards.
Did you say Jeremy Hill did or Jordan Howard?
Jordan Howard. I meant to say Jordan Howard.
I thought you meant Jeremy Hill from his first year.
No.
Okay.
No, Jordan Howard was just a beast.
No, I know. And those numbers look amazing, but it's not going to happen his whole career.
I agree.
All right, let's talk news.
News and notes from around the league.
Do you think that my fantasy leaning is more to the pessimistic? Because that's what that sounded like there, right? Like, I look at Jordan Howard, and then what do I see? I see Jeremy Hill off of his rookie year and how everybody or Eddie Lacy off of his rookie year, and then you look at him and you go, well, let's temper that You don't think I'm not a fantasy pessimist?
No, because you go both sides of it, right? I mean, take Tyreek Hill.
True.
You are the optimist. We are the pessimist. I think we try to take everything on a case-by-case basis. All three of us are willing to be optimistic on someone or pessimistic based on what we believe the numbers in the film bear out.
What's more fun, though? It's more fun. It's more fun to buy into the upside, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, let's talk. Le'Veon Bell has been franchised.
Man.
Who would have thought he'd be a Steeler at this point in his career? Huh? Jason?
I know this is shocking to everyone,
Oh, shocking.
but man, that 101 Dynasty rookie draft pick would have been great
You've
if they let Lev Bell go.
You've been dreaming about that.
Yeah, no, but it was the obvious move. So all Lev Bell keeper owners are happy and ecstatic that he is back in Pittsburgh, not Bumblebee, unfortunately.
Shocking news, guys. Listen to this. Very well-known team annoyance. One of the worst people in the league, from my understanding.
He's a giant distraction. The team is tired of his antics.
Yeah. Well, Antonio Brown, we're talking about, obviously.
Clearly.
He got somehow managed to get a 4-year, $68 million extension despite those rumors. So now he's the highest-paid wide receiver in the league.
Congratulations, Antonio.
Congratulations. Yeah, those antics, they're real tough when you want the ball so you can score.
He just has been unbelievably dominant the last 3 years.
And he's a Jerry Rice-esque type of guy who will age well, and so the money is much more worth it to – he's not an athletic – I mean, he is an athletic freak, but he is not dependent on the athleticism to be amazing.
Yes.
And what were those numbers you pulled up about his 2014 to 2016 season?
Well, in you have just standard number one, number 3. We're talking the last 3 years.
Right.
And so just go to PPR, which if people are playing PPR, they know number one, Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
That seems to be the highest you could get.
It's a good couple days for Steelers fans. Completely unrelated.
You don't think
Big Ben is not retiring.
Is that official news?
No, that's not.
It will be.
It's obvious news.
All right. The Bears are not going to use the franchise tag on Alshon Jeffery.
That was expected,
not
I think.
surprising.
Yeah.
It'll be way too much cash to double franchise Alshon.
I think the most interesting thing is going to be not so much where Alshon goes, but I want to see what happens to the ADP of Cameron Meredith. They'll bring someone else in, whether through the draft.
Kevin White is still there, and Kevin White is still
because right now Cameron
floating
Meredith
on the
is
hype.
so low.
Yes,
he's sometimes undrafted, and
yeah,
that's silly.
it's ridiculous. We actually just put up very quietly our initial 2017 rankings on the website, thefantasyfootballers.com. So you can go peer at those. They are very raw because there is so much that needs to happen between the draft and free agency that, one or two moves by a team changes everything. For example, the ranking of a guy like Jordan Matthews is going to be impacted by who Philadelphia brings in at the wide receiver position. Who does Kirk Cousins have to throw the ball to in Washington?
And Tony Romo. I mean,
yeah.
I have Tony Romo basically unranked right now because I don't know where he's going to go.
Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, what quarterback will be throwing them the
skyrocket.
ball? But I bring this up only to say Cameron Meredith, when you look at the consensus of experts' initial rankings, is nowhere to be found. And he's one of the guys that instantly I moved up because I think, obviously, he has the opportunity to step into Alshon Jeffery's giant, sometimes injured shoes. All right, let's talk about Kenny Stills, your guys' favorite player. It looks like Kenny Stills is not going to be back to Miami because Miami's expecting the market to be excessive in signing 24-year-old Kenny Stills.
Miami has said that it's a priority for them to re-sign him. Now I agree. The market might say, hey, I'm going to give you too much money, and I would not overpay for Kenny Stills. I am a believer in him. I know, Mike, you are as well. We've said for many years that he's a good wide receiver. Andy, you contend that he's replaceable, which I agree to a point. He does have really good speed, but what's crazy is that he's played in the league for a while, and he's had success.
He's been in the league for 10 years.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
Since he was 14, yes.
And he's 24 years old. He's a young guy, so he might end up commanding too much money because of his age. But he's talented. I really hope he comes back to the Dolphins. I want to see him in year 2 with Adam Gase. I think that he would be draftable worthy if he was a Dolphin.
Let me ask you this question, just in light of the Kenny Stills situation, because some people are saying he's going to command $12 million a year.
I think that's Kenny Stills is saying that.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, do you believe when Washington signed Pierre Garçon that signing and the money they paid him in the end was worth it?
You're talking the couple years ago when they signed him?
Right, when they took him away from Indy.
I would say probably. I mean, you did have the season where he led the league in receptions. I mean, he just was an absolute force, and they kind of started scheming the offense away from away from Garcon, but I think he still had that talent and the ability, and he was still a great player for their offense.
And it didn't seem to crush them cap-wise. So I think it was actually a
nothing
decent signing.
Nothing crushes Washington cap-wise.
That's true.
I'm always intrigued by how much money do you spend on the wide receiver 2 type of player versus getting that value in the draft, having a guy be able to step in. So, but Kenny Stills has the potential. Look, you're going to pay a guy. There's an opportunity there. So
1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns. I mean, those are good numbers.
Yes, they are. Let's talk about Latavius Murray. Expected to test the open market. Just a confirmation of what we kind of expected. It seems like Oakland's been willing to let him do that. I don't think it's impossible for him to re-sign in Oakland, personally.
The open mic,
I don't know if the market's going to be there.
Yeah, it might not be too kind. With as deep as this year's 2017 rookie running back class is, last year was a pretty highly touted running back class, and everyone acknowledges that this year trumps it greatly, that the level of running backs, with the sole exception of Zeke, are just head and shoulders. The top 6 or 7 are much better than just prospect-wise going into the year. We don't know where they'll land and how they'll turn out. Obviously, Jordan Howard had a great rookie year. But with that, teams might not be willing to sign Latavius Murray to a large money contract.
Well, is Latavius Murray actually that good? Or is he a product of his offensive line, which has been one of the best for years in the Raiders?
That is the question. And if you have a team that already has kind of an ancillary backfield piece, like Ty Montgomery or Jalen Richard and DeAndre Washington, you wonder why would you pay versus drafting a guy. Like if you are a team that is completely devoid in the backfield, maybe you're investing in an Eddie Lacy or Latavius Murray for a 1 or 2 year opportunity. Those are the teams that I'd be looking for. Comedically, I've thought to myself, wow, if the market's dried up, could they swap teams?
Sure.
Because we've heard rumors of Latavius Murray in Green Bay. But Eddie Lacy, he says that the Packers have been very vocal about re-signing him. So we'll see what transpires. It's obviously an advantage when these guys know the offense already. Let's talk about Kirk Cousins. A report from ESPN's John Keim says that the only team that Kirk Cousins is willing to sign a long-term contract with this offseason is the 49ers.
Yep.
Reunion.
He wants in on that Kyle Shanahan action.
What do you do with Kirk Cousins if he got in on that Kyle Shanahan action? Because does he have you going to be excited about Kirk Cousins throwing to Vance McDonald all season long?
Not overly excited.
Not particularly.
But to Alshon Jeffery.
Yeah, I think long term he'll be fine because I think Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. They clearly have some building to do in San Francisco, but I don't think it would take a ton because look, Torrey Smith can still be that deep route guy, so you have that Deshaun Jackson role covered. Vance McDonald, they just gave him a big contract, and we've seen flashes of talent with Vance McDonald. Kirk Cousins, maybe he feeds the tight end position again. So and Carlos Hyde, they have some guys there where I don't think you're talking I'm abandoning Kirk Cousins for 3 years type of a situation.
No, but I'm not excited about him facing Seattle, Arizona, and St. Louis
I'm not.
6 games during the year. Also, Rob Gronkowski has now broken the record for the most rumors related to his Week 1 availability in the history of fantasy football. He says he'll for sure be ready to play Week 1. So we'll be reporting on that weekly as required by the National Fantasy Football Association.
Yeah, just for context, though, it does well fit his timeline. He should, from the surgery he had and the time that he had it, he should be absolutely fine. No problem, unless there are new setbacks.
Okay.
So before we jump into talking about these coaching changes, I want to thank today's sponsor, Pristine Auction, the absolute best, most dynamic sports memorabilia site anywhere in the planet, in the universe. I'm talking anywhere. And these prices are unbelievable, people, what you can get for a fully 100% authentic autograph from your favorite players on jerseys, on photos. I'm scrolling through what's available right now, and the aforementioned Jordan Howard has a jersey on here, and as of right now, the recording, this thing's at $45. What? For $45. So you can get in on this auction for Jordan Howard. I mean, there's the classic David Johnson, Jay Ajayi. They got the GOAT, Jerry Rice. I mean,
I just saw one of our listeners got a full-size Jerry Rice signed logo football for under $100.
It's bananas, the deals that you can get on Pristine Auction. Spruce up that office, your house. It's the ultimate site for a sports fan. So head on over, Pristine Auction, PRISTINE auction.com. Make a completely free account. There's no jokering going around. You just make your free account. You let them know that the Fantasy Footballers sent you.
No Jared Leto to be found.
Nope.
All right. Before we jump into the coaching changes, I am going to introduce the segment with the identical drop that we used last year. And this is a test for Jason. I don't think Mike even remembers what we used.
No, I do not.
I certainly do not.
But he did. This was a pinnacle moment, so we'll see if Jason remembers this.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Jason's now heard this song twice.
Yes.
I know. He's heard it twice, so does he remember who sings this song?
Who sings it?
Yes.
That's a joke, right? Because of course I don't. No chance that I remember who sings this.
Oh,
no, it's the Beatles.
Oh, God. I just heard Brooks.
Brooks is moaning in the ear.
Brooks, are you doing okay over there?
That hurts me, Jason.
Oh.
Yeah, my apologies to the world.
Brooks, why don't you tell everybody who actually sings that song and tell Jason.
It's David Bowie, Jason.
Oh, all right. Okay, well,
and
here's the deal.
Mike, last year when this happened on the same episode, you called Jason something.
Oh, is this the
This is when you called him uncultured swine.
Oh, was that the originator? I will
And
say this.
you have not changed in your year.
in
since.
I gave you
fairness,
time to change, Jason.
in fairness to myself, I will be willing and capable of giving this joy to us every year
Oh, God.
forever. Because I promise you, by the time next year rolls around,
David
Bowie. David Bowie.
All right.
Got it.
All right. Moving on. Let's talk. Let's start with the 49ers. I mean, we just brought up the Kirk Cousins rumors. So let's talk about Chip Kelly out the door. Kyle Shanahan is the head coach. He's the offensive coordinator. Mike, you were
He's the general manager almost.
you were spitting out. He kind of is. I mean,
know.
with Lynch there, you were spitting out all sorts of Kyle Shanahan news. It seems like you have the floweriest of Kyle Shanahan perspectives.
Well, we have some very strong numbers to back up Kyle Shanahan and why I always want a piece of Kyle Shanahan's offense. I love his quarterbacks. So he's been an OC 9 years before he got this head coaching job. 6 of those 9 years, his teams were top 10 in yards. 5 of those 9 years, his teams were top 8 in passing yards. Kyle Shanahan has a great history for fantasy quarterbacks. In 2008, Matt Schaub, he only played 10 games, so he didn't get to do a full season, but he was on pace to be the quarterback 5. And the very next year, Matt Schaub led the league in passing. Matt Schaub led the league and was the quarterback 4. You have just great history. Only 4 times, though, unlucky for Shanahan, but only 4 times he's had a quarterback make it through the whole season. But 3 of those 4 years, his quarterback was top 5 for fantasy. Matt Schaub, Matt Ryan, and Robert Griffin. I mean, there's just a lot of signs. His offense is so dynamic. We've seen great things from him. So I'm excited for what can happen eventually in San Francisco.
So how immediate could this impact be, and how much do you project that onto, let's say it's Kaepernick next year? If Kaepernick's back, they've talked about, we've had good meetings with Colin Kaepernick. The Kirk Cousins rumors don't come to fruition. They can't trade for Garoppolo. These things don't happen. How much do you, project immediately? Because, I mean, this is a team with a wide receiver core that has Torrey Smith signed and Bruce Ellington signed and Rod Streeter signed. I mean, this is not a Chris Harper signed. I mean, this is not
yeah.
I could put a name out there right now. You wouldn't know if I'm telling the truth. That's what their wide receivers look like. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, they absolutely need a number 1. But with Shanahan, and assuming it's Colin Kaepernick, I'm okay with that for fantasy. Maybe that not a draftable type of a guy. I mean, if you want to draft Kaepernick, I'm sure that he will be 100% free. But we saw even last year, once Kaepernick really started to shake the dust off, he he was a fantasy force. I mean, he runs so much that maybe Kyle Shanahan can improve that passing game just enough that Kaepernick becomes really usable.
I will say
go
one
ahead.
of the things that's nice for Kaepernick, if he is the starter, is that Shanahan does use movement with the quarterback a lot of rollouts, a lot of
Right.
things that would lead to his strengths. So from the passing game, but this being said, I think the weapons are too big a hurdle to ignore or to say Shanahan could come in and make it good. We've seen Shanahan in the past. Obviously, he came into Atlanta as the OC. They were all right. It took 2 years really before that system clicked. You know, he wasn't able to go. You know, he was with Cleveland, right, for a season. That's probably the most accurate analogy that we shouldn't be looking at. Well, how was Kyle Shanahan with, you know, the Super Bowl losing Atlanta Falcons? We should say, well, how was Kyle Shanahan when he was the offensive coordinator with the Cleveland Browns, because they're about as good as the San Francisco 49ers. And in that single season that he had them, they were middle of the pack. You know, they were 23rd in total yards on the offense. And so, when I look at this, I think I am not going to buy into the rhetoric of Kyle Shanahan makes Colin Kaepernick great, makes Carlos Hyde great. If anything, I think that while Kyle Shanahan has had some successful running back systems before.
He's had some very successful running
He's had
back
some very
systems.
bad ones too, though, in fairness. If you look through his record, and you're losing Chip Kelly, who was an offensive mind, who gave you extra snaps and extra plays. So, to me, I see the most of the 49ers players about the same as I did last year.
Yeah.
Next year, 2018, I will buy in a little bit more as he gets his system more in, he gets more players in, and hopefully they get a little bit more talent. That's how I see it.
The last thing I'll say for Shanahan being in, what it changes, I guess it doesn't change the fact that I already liked Carlos Hyde as a player and a talent, but I'm still very in on him, even though Chip Kelly is gone, who has been pretty solid for running back fantasy production. But with Shanahan coming in, I still think Carlos Hyde will have a high-level year.
With Shanahan coming in too, we've been here 2 years ago, and I think it would be wrong to have the fantasy perspective with all the hurdles that he has in San Francisco with the division, the quarterback, the personnel. It would be wrong to go all in on a Kyle Shanahan adjustment here. Matt Ryan was the quarterback 19 in his first year with Kyle Shanahan with weapons, and then last year was QB2. So I'm with Jason. I'd be holding that. I'd be hesitating for a couple years until you see momentum on the offensive side of the ball. But that was one of the bigger offseason changes. Let's take a look now. You guys want to talk about the Los Angeles Chargers? Stay out there in California?
Yep.
It's weird, man. It's still weird. The Los Angeles Chargers just sounds and feels weird. The Los Angeles Rams was fine. That was like, okay.
This one's been easier for me to not make mistakes about. So for whatever reason.
Yeah, not on.
Mike McCoy is out. Say goodbye. Anthony Lynn is in, head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. Ken Wisenhunt stays as the offensive coordinator. What do we know about Anthony Lynn, and how will this offense be impacted?
So Anthony Lynn has been a running back coach since 2003, and 6 of his 8 years, his teams have been top 6 in rushing production. I mean, this guy, when you go back and you look at the running backs he has coached and what he's gotten out of these guys, it's unbelievable. Fred Taylor, the Julius Jones-Marion Barber combo, Jamal Lewis, Thomas Jones, newer Chris Ivory and Bilal Powell, and, of course, Shady McCoy. And not to mention, he got 2 1,000-yard seasons out of Sean Green.
That's my
not
favorite.
Just him, but I mean, he was part of that, right? He was part of that system with Rex Ryan. So when we're talking about that question of Melvin Gordon versus Jordan Howard, this
is a check mark in the Melvin Gordon column.
It is absolutely a check mark for me. You still have the stability of Ken Wisenhunt.
Right.
We've seen Wisenhunt do great things as an O coordinator. Now you have Anthony Lynn coming in, who is the running back guy. But what we've seen from the Chargers, at least the last couple of years, is they've kind of gotten away from just running the ball a ton. They've really gone to Phillip Rivers. So now you have a head coach who I think can come
He's
in
not
here
gonna stand
and be
for
like,
that.
Hey, Wisenhunt, run the freaking ball.
Well, Ken Wisenhunt has struggled historically to find a runner and to utilize the running game. I mean, back to the days of
We
Arizona.
talk about Beanie Wells,
Beanie
man.
Wells and utilizing multiple backfield mates inefficiently. So, I mean, I do like that Anthony Lynn's coming in. The focus is going to be there, or at least the balance is going to be there.
Yeah, that's what I'm excited about. Is just the balance. I don't
Right.
think everything is just it's a complete 180. And now Melvin Gordon, they've switched to a just we're going to grind you out team. But you have a guy who's on team running back.
And I like the list of names that you gave me because it was filled with guys that really didn't have success outside of his system. Yeah, okay, LaShawn McCoy, I can kind of throw that out. I think LaShawn McCoy probably would have had some success in Buffalo regardless of Anthony Lynn.
Right.
But somebody like Sean Green, Thomas Jones's some of his good years, seeing what Ivory did last year versus his time with Lynn, there are reasons to be optimistic for Melvin Gordon in the future there and building that relationship with Anthony Lynn. So let's move on. I say move on, but we're staying in the same state because every team in the NFL has moved to Los Angeles.
And if you're in California, it's a rule you must get rid of your head coach.
Yep.
That was a rule this year.
Unfortunately, it wasn't a rule like 2 years
Sorry,
ago.
Jack Del Rio,
I was
you're
saying,
done.
except for Oakland.
Right.
But, I mean,
75%.
Jeff Fisher is gone from the LA Rams. We know this.
Woohoo!
Sean McVay is the head coach.
Oh, yes.
All
Let's
right.
do this.
What's my age again?
All right. Guess the age of Sean McVay. And I don't know why I'm saying this because I don't remember the age, and you wrote that in there. So,
And I wrote it in there.
Oh, he's super young. He's got.
I think
be
he's
like
32.
He's got to be like 35.
I think he's 32.
No, I know the answer. He is.
Do you?
31.
Yes.
Oh, but Brooks has said that he's 31. We need to vet this. We need
He
someone.
is 31. He is 31 years old.
So, the three of us are older
All right.
than
Oh,
head
that's
coach.
gross. Shut your mouth. You are on timeout from talking on this podcast for one. How dare you, sir?
This
You're
man,
old enough to be his
I'm old enough to
much
be
older
his
brother.
Much older brother. Yes, that is very, very true. Honestly, Sean McVay, this hiring is. Dude, they are reaching for the stars here. They are wanting to find the diamond in the rough, get the guy who is the young gun. And look, when this hire was made, I was against it. I was very much saying there's a difference between a young coach and a baby, because a young coach comes in.
Tell me more.
He's 35 years old. He's really, really young, right?
Babies
But
poop in their
aren't
diapers.
players. There aren't players on his team older than him, right? But at 31, there's going to be players on his team that he is younger than, trying to coach them, trying to get their respect and all of that. Now, once they made the best defensive coordinator, their defensive coordinator in the league, and they've got a good defense, I think the Rams are okay. They also brought in Matt LaFleur, who was great as the quarterback's coach. I think he's who should have been the offensive coordinator for Atlanta. So they stole him. Together, I think they've pieced a good head coaching team together, or not head coaching, but coaching staff. Sean McVay, he was the offensive coordinator for the Washington Redskins.
From 2014 through 2016.
They were all right. But this is, make no mistake, there's a lot of nepotism in this hire. This is not talent alone, right? He would not have got those gigs if he wasn't. I think he's the grandson of famed 49er GM. I believe that's from memory. I'll
You gotta
bet
make a
that.
bold claim like
Yeah.
that. You better be able to back it up.
I will look that up.
I disagree. I think McVay was great in Washington.
Here's what I'll say. This hiring reminds me so much of when Josh McDaniels
I
went
was
to
going to say
Denver.
McDaniels.
Because when McDaniels went to Denver, he was 33 years old. We forget that. Like, he's 40 now. He still looks like he's 33 years old. But he was 33 when he went to Denver, and it didn't work. It did not. It was started nice,
Well,
but it fell apart quick.
when Bill Belichick tricks you into drafting Tim Tebow.
He started, 7-0 in Denver? Something like that
Yeah.
year. But it fell apart really quickly. It reminds me of them trying to catch. Jason made the comparison. It's like a lightning in a bottle situation. You want to get the potential star young coach.
Right.
And talk about a contrast between Jeff Fisher and
Right.
you've just
Old school
squeezed out the
and
last
baby
drop from the rag.
But so McVay in Washington, his first year, they were a struggling offense. They were 26th in points his first year. The second year, up to 10th, and then they were 12th the following 2 years. The passing yards, 11th, 2nd. They're much lower middle of the pack in rushing yards in those years when McVay was the OC of Washington. So you don't see like a huge natural bump for Gurley the way I feel about Melvin Gordon getting a new head coach. But there's some hope. I mean, the guy knows how to scheme a passing offense. He was a tight end coach prior to being the OC in Washington. And Jason and I have a little bit of sleeper hope for Lance Kendricks, which
coming from Jordan Reed being fed the ball a ton.
I mean, so that may or may not happen. But I have more hope and faith in Sean McVay producing an offense that at least gives you something as opposed to Jeff Fisher.
When you look at fantasy football, I mean, you know how everybody finished last year for the Los Angeles Rams, and you say, are they better or are they worse? And, that's yet to be seen. There's still more offseason. How do they do in the draft? Are they going to re-sign their number one wide receiver, who certainly is not Tavon Austin?
No, I don't think
they are signing Kenny Britt.
I don't think they will.
Who had a very good season. They still have Jared Goff. They still have, a poor O-line. They still have the same Todd Gurley. So
they still have Jared Goff. He's only been in the league for 1 year.
But that's my point.
It's like
Jared Goff is
bear.
the reason this hire made sense to them too. They brought in a guy who can build a relationship with their young high draft investment and hopefully develop
buddies, right?
And hopefully develop them. Yeah,
like maybe best friends. They're the same age group.
Teach them where the sun rises and sets and
Yeah.
other really basic science facts.
But we need to move on, though. We need to talk about the Bills and the Rex Ryan hire. But did you have a finishing thought for L.A.?
There is hope because Jeff Fisher is gone. It's not so much what Sean McVay brings. It's basically what Jeff Fisher being gone and allowing that team to be a little bit more aggressive. And that's the only hope that I have in the L.A. Rams changing for fantasy.
All right, let's talk about Rex Ryan leaving Buffalo. Sean McDermott became the head coach. Rick Dennison is now the offensive coordinator. What do you see happening with this offense? Let's say Tyrod Taylor's back. We have Sammy Watkins. Let's project some health for him if we can, and LaShawn McCoy. So where do you see this offense heading in 2017, Mr. Wright?
Well, what's interesting is, I mean, normally you see when a head coach is fired, a team will go, we're changing everything. We're going 180.
Going
like
opposite.
You saw the Rams. They took one of the oldest coaches and they said, we're bringing in the youngest coach in NFL history. And a lot of times when you see a defensive-minded head coach out, they flip. They bring in, okay, well, we want an offensive-minded head coach. They have not done this in Buffalo. Rex Ryan, all of his notables and like his medals of honor are defense-related, or they're supposed to be defense-related. And you bring in Sean McDermott, who was the defensive coordinator for Carolina, who had an elite-level defense from – last year it kind of fell apart, but you had a 3-year run of them being an elite-level defense. So they keep that kind of status quo there. That's who they want to be. And then they bring in Rick Dennison, who
perfect Anthony Lynn replacement.
Right.
Like same type of guy.
What got me the most excited about Rick Dennison is just remembering, of his history. He was an offensive coordinator for the Broncos for a while. He's been an offensive line coach. But the creme de la creme for Rick Dennison is he was the Texans offensive coordinator from 2010 to 2013.
You should love him, Andy.
There is a notable thing that happened for the Houston Texans in those 3 years. It was called Arian Foster.
Yeah.
Just
got the ball,
dominating.
got the ball.
Yes. So if you are concerned about an offensive coordinator's want or desire to feed one person the ball 10,000 times, you should not be. And this just for me confirms that Shady McCoy should still be thought of as a top 5 running back for this coming year.
If he's on the Bills.
What are you talking about, that ridiculous tweet?
Yeah, there have been some rumors that the cap number is so big for Shady that they may, go another direction.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
I mean, his agent doesn't agree, but
That would blow me away.
Yeah, that would be absolutely shocking if LaShawn McCoy was not on the Buffalo Bills.
I do have a little bit of breaking news real quick to jump in here
Oh,
with the Browns.
Where's the button?
The Browns? Well, I don't know.
It's not
that
about breaking
worthy.
newsworthy.
It's the Browns. The Browns placed a second-round tender on Isaiah Crowell.
Oh.
Did they really?
They did.
How is
They did.
that's big
They're
news?
working on a long-term deal. Wait, do you want me to start that over
Yes.
again?
Yeah,
Hold on.
Breaking news.
The Browns have placed a second-round tender on superstar Isaiah Crowell.
It's not necessarily superstar, but him moving teams was going to be very interesting. So the Browns are keeping him. He's had production.
Wait.
there.
You don't think people are going to go and offer their second-round pick and a big sum of money for Isaiah Crowell?
I do not.
I agree.
He had a very good year.
He sure did.
Yes.
He had over 1,200 total yards.
I mean, they showed a lot of promise in the running game in Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, this might what's nice about that commitment is I think you'll have, like last offseason, remember the way people looked at Crowell and Duke Johnson as, 1A, 1B,
Right.
or in
Well,
the Browns' sake,
it was Duke
2A,
Johnson.
2B.
People wanted Duke.
So, yeah, kind of interesting news. All right, I do want to circle back, though. Sorry about the detour there.
It's all right.
You make a great point that I hijacked by the rumors about Shady being dropped. He's probably going to be back in Buffalo. And the history of Dennison and what he's done with the running back position, we talked about, Anthony Lynn came in with a history. Shady McCoy's not going to get in the way of what they want to do with the running back position. Do we see things shaking out differently for any other pieces of the offense? I mean, is Sammy Watkins, is his fantasy football success simply tied to being healthy for 16 games more than it is
Yes.
with this offensive change?
More than anything, it's his health. I would say the second most important thing is going to be more who the quarterback is.
Yes.
We don't know if it's going to be Tyrod Taylor.
It's trending to be Tyrod.
Seems like it will be Tyrod Taylor.
And good for you, Buffalo.
Right.
I mean, good for you for not trying to reset on your quarterback.
Yeah, the way that I see all these changes, I mean, you get a new offensive coordinator, a new head coach in Buffalo, and it feels like the exact same team. And honestly, I really like what they did. I think that they made for NFL football, if I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, I think they've kept what works together, but they've replaced with some new blood. I like it. But fantasy won't change that much there.
Do you guys remember what the Buffalo Bills record was last year?
Not the best.
I want to see how you feel about
I
it.
feel like it was middle of the pack. I'm trying to I feel like they were like a 6-win team.
7-9.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to go 7.
So, I mean, you're talking about a team that wasn't at the basement.
Right.
So it just adds to Jason's point that maybe changing everything up isn't the solution. Maybe just getting, Rex Ryan out. All right, the Broncos.
Rex Ryan needs to stop bringing his brother with him.
Seriously.
What are you-
Yeah, that doesn't work. You know that I think Jeff Fisher's son is still the DB coach for the Rams, by the way. So there's still some of that blood.
Drain the swamp.
Poor guy trying to make it
know,
in this world.
I know.
He's
That's,
just the son.
I
All right,
apologize.
so we've been talking about a lot of teams that I think have made improvements or sideways moves. Let's talk about a team that, in my opinion, has hurt itself with their head coaching changes. And
really?
Well, they didn't have a choice.
That's true. It's not their fault. I just believe that for the Denver Broncos to lose Gary Kubiak is a big deal.
Right.
I think Gary Kubiak's a great coach, and he's
too.
not just flat easily replaceable. I am not. Here's the deal. I trust John Elway at this point. I think most people do. He's made enough
think he has
good
earned that.
moves from head coach, from coordinators, from draft picks, where he has earned that respect. It is only out of that respect that I can say, okay, Vance Joseph as the head coach, I assume it could be okay, because everything else I look at, I don't get it. I don't get Vance Joseph as the pick. Mike McCoy coming in as the offensive coordinator, at least you've got enough experience there for not
Coming back, yeah.
Yeah, as not a very experienced head coach. So for me, I worry about this team unless it gets Tony Romo.
I mean, I think that does come down to the quarterback position. I think this team's going to be fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I do. I think this team has the potential to win the Super Bowl if they bring in the right quarterback very easily.
Yeah, and I'm with you.
Let's not forget what this defense is.
Yeah, let's not forget they lost the best defensive coordinator in the league as well.
Well,
Yeah,
but you have a defensive mind with Vance Joseph. I mean,
Yeah.
you do bring in a guy who his whole history since 2006 has been, DBs or D coordinators. So I just think it's a team with incredible defensive weapons, but that is not, we're not talking defense starting strategy for fantasy football. We're talking about the offensive side of the ball, and if your team is built around defense, you do cap your upside sometimes unless you have a guy like Tony Romo that can walk in, make Demaryius Thomas relevant again, make Emmanuel Sanders more relevant again. I would say I'm kind of holding back judgment here because the quarterback situation is so uncertain. Now,
but yeah, it's definitely uncertain. Even if it ends up being Trevor Siemian again, we saw at least some games that say he's capable. Give him another full offseason of. I mean, he wasn't. They weren't even 100% sure he was going to be the starting quarterback. If he goes into camp, you're the starter. Let's treat you as such. You're not trying to earn this job. You're just trying to get better. I think that's an improvement. Mike McCoy, to me, is probably more similar to Ken Wisenhunt, where not a great head coach, but a tremendous offensive coordinator. You look at his passing yard rankings of his entire career as either an OC or head coach, 13th, 7th. Here's the one that sticks out, 31st. But you can explain that away because Tim Tebow was his quarterback, which I will throw out. The year that Tim Tebow was his quarterback, he had the best rushing team in the league because he is good. He didn't try and say, Tim Tebow, you have to do this. You need to be the prototype quarterback. I will mold to your skill set. And then after Tebow, passing yard ranks 5th, 4th, 10th, 4th, and 8th. I mean, he gets it done in the passing game. And then for fantasy football, that's what I want.
I like that they put McCoy is the perfect complement to Joseph when you lose Kubiak, because Kubiak had the ability to, help mold that quarterback, and now McCoy can come in and do the same thing, whether it is Paxton Lynch, whether it's Siemian, whether it's somebody else.
Right.
So I think Elway finds himself in the precarious position of, boy, we might be able to get another one if I commit 2 years to Tony Romo, but we might hijack kind of the transition to the future.
I like how the rumors have slowly started to soften as
Right.
well. But originally it was reports from Elway. Our quarterbacks are Trevor Siemian and Paxton Lynch. That's it, period. Like, well, if Tony Romo does become a free
We've
agent,
got to at least look at
we'll
it.
think about it. We'll think about throwing him a boatload of money immediately.
Now, I am just shocked at this next report, guys. Gus Bradley apparently is no longer the head coach of the Jacksonville
Oh, man.
Jaguars. Now, I just
We still haven't gotten over this?
dear diary. Gus is gone, and with him, my hopes and dreams for a championship for Jacksonville
Have just improved.
No,
Hey, you know what?
it's my last chance to say anything about Gus Bradley.
We're only talking about the offensive side of the ball here, but don't forget he got a head coaching or a defensive coordinator job for the Chargers, right?
Yeah.
believe
No,
he
he
is.
is. He's the D coordinator for the Los Angeles Chargers.
There
Should
you
have
go.
brought him up before.
You're still there, Gus. You're still
It's
employed.
all right. All right. Doug Marrone is the head coach in Jacksonville. Nathaniel Hackett is offensive coordinator. Look, last year it was a very tumultuous year. That's probably the best way to put it for Allen Robinson and Alan Hearns and
Blake
Bortles and TJ Yeldon and the Chris Ivory optimism and all of these things that were wrapped up in this offense that looked like it might not be a winning team, but it looked like it would at least be that Washington Redskins powerhouse type of, the offense is going to have yardage, and that yardage is going to provide for multiple fantasy football options on that roster. Last year was disappointing. In our initial ranks, I am taking the optimistic perspective on Allen Robinson. He had a better second half of the season. I think I'm going to believe that Blake Bortles can get it together a little bit here under Nathaniel Hackett.
The latest reports out of Jacksonville are Tom Coughlin, who was hired for
The general manager position?
Yes, to be to wear the britches over there in Jacksonville.
That's a good way to put it.
He's putting Blake Bortles on notice and essentially said, you improve or you're going to be out. So it's maybe that will light the fire.
If Blake Bortles doesn't know that by this point in his career, thank goodness Tom Coughlin came along because, a lot of these guys, they do kind of, when you've dominated at every level and then you're a high draft pick, you just think you're the guy for a while. I mean, Blake Bortles has to fix it or get out.
Hey,
get out the door.
I say get out. I would take him. I
Blake
would take
Bortles?
Blake Bortles
gosh.
to Arizona.
What?
He's got the tools. He's a 24-year-old.
Define the tools.
He's
Are
got
you
he's got the arm strength.
He throws real far.
but at different arm angles by different feet. I mean,
I think he was hurt this last year, and I'm expecting a
let me
rebound.
throw this out. Okay, you can expect a rebound. I don't think anybody. I think you're the first person that, after watching what he did last year, said the words, "I'll take him." Let's put it that way.
Yes.
Especially when Tom Coughlin comes in and says, "Maybe get out of here." So
I promise you, there are plenty of other NFL teams that
I
would say that. And
look,
if he went on the open
yeah, I
market,
mean,
he would get a lot of
yeah,
money.
just like
Yeah.
Jay Cutler. He's brought a lot of playoff success.
So Doug Marrone.
Give me Jay Cutler, by the
Doug
way.
Marrone has had some success on the
Over Blake Bortles, not in general.
Yeah, I don't think
I
many
mean,
people watched Jay Cutler last year.
Give me the
and said,
best tasting terrible food.
Give me the
is what I'm saying.
24-year-old.
on
All
the
right.
the offensive side of the ball. He was the OC in New Orleans for a few years, and surprise, surprise, things went very well
Really, when they
when you got a Hall of Fame level
Are you
quarterback.
talking about Doug Marrone?
Yeah,
Doug Marrone, he got a raw deal in Buffalo. That's my
Yes.
opinion.
Well-
I think Doug Marrone is a.
didn't he just leave
yes.
Buffalo? I feel like he didn't get a raw deal. He gave a raw deal, but he was doing well in Buffalo. I think he was. I mean, if that's your point,
I guess
I agree.
my perspective is that they view Doug Marrone as a failure because of the head coaching switches. But I think Doug Marrone was a good head coach. I
agree.
think you saw his impact on the very successful offense for Jacksonville in 2015. So I'm optimistic.
yeah, I'm
I
optimistic.
think
as
Gus
well.
Bradley had to get out of the way. I think he's a defensive coordinator.
I like the fact that so Nathaniel Hackett's the OC. Doug Marrone and Hackett have worked together before. There was reports that that's a lot of why Marrone went with Hackett. You know, there was the rumors of Chip Kelly was going to be the OC for Jacksonville, but Marrone went with someone who he's worked with before. Maybe we have some more cohesion there. And you had Hackett was the quarterback coach for better or worse. I mean, how you think of the development of Blake Bortles, but at least they're staying in that straight line where we've seen so many promising quarterbacks who they switch the OC on them every single year, and you just absolutely destroy their career. So to me, for Blake Bortles, this is the optimal optimal situation if you are changing coaches.
I agree, and I that's part of why I expect the rebound. I think he was hurt last year. I think they weren't being creative, and you saw some changes happen when they let Gus Bradley go. They start moving Allen Robinson around the line and getting a little
Wasn't there the report of, like, how did Allen Robinson have a little bit more success after they had fired Greg Olsen? They said, well, we moved him around.
Yes, that's exactly, yeah. It took you a little while to make that decision, huh?
Like, I did coaching things.
I will always remember the Toby Gerhart goal line.
Oh, my goodness gracious. That
Oh,
was
man.
where he got
It was three in a
or
row.
It was
four?
Yeldon, right, who had brought it right down to the one, and
Yes.
they were not giving T.J. Yeldon goal line carries, and it was 4 carries
Was
in
it
a
four?
row.
I think it was 4.
It was,
It was
First
4
down,
Toby
second down,
Gerhart
third down,
carries on the
fourth
1
down.
yard line,
Their ball.
and then you can imagine T.J. Yeldon had just ran it down the whole field, and he's standing on the sideline probably just
yeah, he's over
losing
there.
his
It's like,
mind.
This is fine. This is fine.
Gus.
oh Gus.
All right.
All right, I think that's going to be it for the coaching changes perspective. We'll catch you up with more things that happen, and as we talk about players, we're obviously going to bring these topics back up. Things like, okay, we talked about Kyle Shanahan going to San Francisco, but when we talk about Matt Ryan and the Falcons offense, we're going to talk about the impact of him leaving Atlanta as
Right.
well. So
Yeah, Sarkisian being
being
in
the
there.
new offensive coordinator there. So we will get into more of the details, but hopefully this gives you a nice overview of what's taken place this last offseason. We encourage you to stay tuned for the show after the show, only on YouTube this offseason. Yeah, you get a few extra moments with us. Today we'll be debating a very fun topic. It's not fantasy football related. It is more of a fantasy because neither of us are outdoorsmen. So we will debate who will survive the longest in the wild here on YouTube. So thanks for tuning in. We appreciate your reviews on iTunes. Follow us on Twitter at the FFBallers. Check out the website, thefantasyfootballers.com. And as always, as we depart, We encourage you to check out Fantasy Jocks if you need a trophy, a ring, a championship belt, any of those things. They're the place to go. And we
Promo
will.
code is footballers.
That is right. We'll catch you later.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.